I have got a question for all of you armchair quarterbacks, all you armchair offensive coordinators and head coaches out there. Offensively, when you're at the line of scrimmage and you're seeing a lot of guys in the box, should you run it or should you throw it? Seems pretty simple, right? Well, not everybody can comprehend the complexities of college football offense. We'll get to that here in a moment. That and more to Thursday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am Eric Cain, your chauffeur here, your driver in the fast lane here on Locked On Vols. We're part of the Locked On Vols Podcast Network. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day, where you can watch, you can listen, subscribe, follow us completely free wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube by subscribing to the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. Got a whole lot to get into here today. In segments 2 and 3, we're going to catch up with my buddy from the Talkin VAWLZ Network. That is Boogie Bentley. We talk with him every weekly in football season. We're going to get his thoughts, and we're just going to kind of go back and forth on what our big takeaways were from spring practice, portal needs, recruiting, all that and more. That's coming up in segments 2 and 3. But first, here in segment 1, going to get into where Jaylen Wright is positioned in the latest mock drafts, and an interesting social media comment that I just can't let go unscathed. I just can't let it go by without commenting on it because it is just that atrocious. Hey, Monopoly Go is brought to you. This episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Monopoly Go. And I got a competitive side. I know you do as well. A big fan of Monopoly Go because you can be super competitive with that. The mobile hit twist on it's the mobile hit twist on the classic game of Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go today, now in the App Store and at Google Play. All right, so let's get into what I'm talking about on social media. And normally I don't, necessarily kind of lead off a show with something like this or tailor a show around something like this. But this was just so absurd, I couldn't let it go unnoticed. Josh Norris, who is a football content lead creator for Underdog Fantasy, and Underdog Fantasy, proud sponsors of the show. They do a lot of work with us during football season. It's fun to play. I encourage you guys to go and check out Underdog Fantasy and win big today. It's a whole lot of fun. And Josh Norris is one that, creates content, does a whole lot of work for him, and does some good work and everything. And I'm not critiquing him, not critiquing Underdog Fantasy whatsoever, but I am critiquing this comment that was put out on Twitter the other day. He's breaking down Jaylen Wright's, draftability, breaking down Jaylen Wright's film and all that, and he's going through the metrics and the stats and all that, and that's fine. He tweets out, per Pro Football Focus, Jaylen Wright had just 4 carries when facing 8+ defenders in the box, and just 5 total outside runs. Mickey Mouse offense. Mickey Mouse offense. So let's read this again. Per Pro Football Focus, which breaks down, every little intricacy there is in football. And, we had Max Chadwick on a couple weeks ago, and you guys know that I like using Pro Football Focus for a lot of things. Per Pro Football Focus, Jaylen Wright had just 4 carries when facing 8+ defenders in the box. Mickey Mouse offense. So let me get this straight. Let me try to understand the logic behind this thought process. When you're a quarterback looking out on the line of scrimmage, okay, and you have checks, you have automatic checks and audibles and everything, and you see 8 or 9 men in the box, elementary quarterback school will teach you, check your hot route passing, audible, throw the football. Do not run into an 8 or 9 or 10 man box. Because what sense would that make? Football is a numbers game, okay? So just because Jaylen Wright had only 4 carries on the season with 8+ defenders in the offense, it tells me that Joe Milton was doing his job that he was coached to do and checking out to a hot route or whatever. That's what quarterbacks do, not just in Josh Heupel's offense, not in Auburn's offense or Alabama's offense or whatever. It's what quarterbacks do. So to come in here with that, that stat's true. Sure, Jaylen Wright had 4 carries of 8+ defenders in the box. Okay. Then you followed up with Mickey Mouse offense. What on earth are you saying here? It's not a Mickey Mouse offense. Mickey himself, I tweeted this on Locked On Vols, Mickey himself would say, hey, let's throw the football. like, what are we doing here? And I don't know Josh Norris. I know he does good work. I've seen his work a lot of times. He could be a great guy and everything, and that's fine. Again, I'm going hard on his comment here. There's a difference. In today's age, I think a lot of people can't separate the two. I'm not attacking the person. I'm attacking the comment because the comment is weak. But, obviously, Vol Nation jumped in there and had a lot of things to say to Josh Norris, and that's fine. And his response to one of the tweets, I don't have it in front of me, but I read it earlier today. His response to one of the tweets, okay, here it is. I'm really only speaking about it from a prospect eval standpoint, and that's fine. That's his job. A prospect eval standpoint. That's okay. He also says, I honestly do not watch college football in season. Then why make that comment? Why on earth make that comment? I don't know. Josh Heupel's offensive players will always get peppered with questions at the combine, at pro days, at sitting down with NFL scouts and personnel during the draft process, during the pre-draft process, and that's fine. That's cool. Yeah, that's fine. But Hendon Hooker being questioned about playing in this offense, or Jalen Hyatt last year being questioned about playing in this offense, those are fair in my opinion. You still score points and you win a whole lot of games at this level. So, for us, it don't matter because you're winning games. You're playing an explosive brand of offensive football, and it's fun. But to be questioned or pointed out or have an attack on the offense that you come from because a certain running back prospect only had 4 carries the entire season with 8+ defenders in the box is just the silliest thing I've seen on the internet today. And oh my God, that's saying something. Because there are some crazies out there on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Goodness gracious. I mean, obviously I'm a little worked up about this. I try to always have a general understanding about what I'm going to talk about on the show. Sometimes I come in ready to play. I always come to the ball yard ready to roll, okay? Because I take pride in my job. There are some topics that I'm not as well versed on as others. And that's human. That's fine. I still prepare and do my research and try to get ready to go to the best of my abilities. But there are some topics that I'm not as well informed on as others. And that's going to happen. But if you're not super well informed about a certain subject, whether it be the game of football and the numbers game, which is what the sport is, the quarterback play and checking and audibling, hey, if you have 5 in the box, run the football. It's the same inverse here. If you have 5 in the box, you have 4 in the box, run the dang football. Because if you don't, then your quarterback is not doing his job. But if you're not well informed to make this opinion, then why in the world would you put it out there? I don't know. That's just my thing. Again, I want to stress here. In today's age, we can't separate the two. I'm not attacking the person. I'm attacking the comment, because the comment, in my opinion, is weak sauce. Goodness gracious. Speaking of Jaylen Wright, we'll move on here. Mel Kiper Jr. and Phil Yates, they did an NFL mock draft where they alternated picks the first 3 rounds. They had Jaylen Wright going number 77 overall. That's in the 3rd round to the Las Vegas Raiders. Here's what they had to say on that. Finally, another running back off the board. The Raiders lost Josh Jacobs, which means there are opportunities for touches in 2024. Wright averaged 7.4 yards per rush in 2023, which ranked 3rd in FBS. According to this mock draft, Jaylen Wright was the 2nd running back off the board in the mock draft after Texas running back Jonathan Brooks. He was taken number 56 overall by the Dallas Cowboys. So, as you can see in this mock draft, the first running back taken was towards the end of the 2nd round. Running backs are not a hot commodity in this year's draft, which means, Jaylen Wright, because he had such a good year and he is a good prospect and a good player, he could be, he's obviously in this conversation as one of the top 2 running backs to be taken in the NFL draft later this month. Other running backs who were drafted in this mock draft, of course, you had Jonathan Brooks, 56 overall to the Cowboys. You had Jaylen Wright, 77 overall to the Raiders. Trey Benson of Florida State went 85 to the Browns. USC's Marshawn Lloyd, 92 to the Bucks. Michigan's Blake Corum, 97 to the Cincinnati Bengals. And that, again, was just in the top 3 rounds. So I can't wait to see where Jaylen Wright goes. I can't wait to see what Jaylen Wright does. Trying to get him on the show here at some point. I was hoping to run into him at the Orange and White game. Didn't get that opportunity because I know he was busy, and of course I was covering the game. But super, super thrilled to see kind of where Jaylen Wright goes throughout this process. But again, I mean, going back to 4 carries of A+ defenders in the box, I mean, that's a fact. That's okay. The follow-up comment there, Mickey Mouse offense. I mean, so is every offense in the game of football at every program, at any level, high school, pee-wee, high school, college, pro, semi-pro, any quarterback worth a darn is checking out of a run play when there's 8 defenders or 9 defenders in the box. I mean, what are we doing here? Golly. Let's be informed, people. Let's be informed. All right. Speaking of being informed, Boogie Bentley, he's a guy that's pretty much informed about all things Tennessee football. He's got opinions. We're going to get some of those opinions when we return here as we continue on with a Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Okay, wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts all in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now, you need to take those investments to the next level by using every financial great uses over at Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you the tools and the data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customization charts, and a whole lot more. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every investor. That is yahoofinance.com. The #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Boogie Bentley of the Talkin VAWLZ Network is coming up next. Boogie, you weren't around for segment #1, but I got a little animated. I got a little worked up about Jaylen Wright, Mickey Mouse offense, all this stuff, people that just say things and don't think about things. But nonetheless, clearly we think about everything we say and we're perfect. What do you think about Jaylen Wright, man? I know we don't talk a ton of like NFL draft stuff, but it feels like it's a draft that doesn't have a whole lot of running backs. But, man, Jaylen Wright's going to probably be a 3rd-round pick, maybe the first, maybe not the first, but very much in conversation for the 2nd or 3rd running back taken. I mean, I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about his future in the NFL. I think he may be a guy that we look back on and say, kind of like Jalin Hyatt, right? When Jalin Hyatt got drafted, we're like, well, system, right? It's the system. So next man up. And we saw just how good Jalin Hyatt was in this offense. And same thing for Jaylen Wright, man. I'm excited to see him at the next level. A lot of running back talk right now. I would like to have a Jaylen Wright in that running back room moving forward. But, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does at the next level.
Yeah, I think somebody asked on the VolQuest Mailbag podcast this week, like, I want everybody to give a bold prediction for Tennessee football this year. And my immediate thought, it was negative, and I don't like that because I'm a more positive person. But like a bold prediction for me would be running back is going to take a step back this year. And Josh Heupel has running backs, they've averaged over 200 yards rushing a game since he's been here. It's been a top 10 rushing offense, one of the best in the nation and the SEC. It's been great. And I'm not saying it's going to be poorly. It's going to be poor, but the questions right now with Selden being out, are they going to get somebody from the portal? Man, Sampson, better wrap him in bubble wrap, all that and more. But you still lose Wright and Jabari Small, who's a really good college back for you. It's just hard to convince me that Tennessee's rushing attack is going to be on par with what it was last year. Maybe it takes a step back and it's still good, but you're losing some dudes.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about the running back room when Jabari Small said he wasn't coming back for another year. I think if he had been back, I would have felt a whole lot more confident just in this running back room and having the bodies. Yeah, it's worse. And, a lot of people are coming at me when I say I think Tennessee needs to add somebody at the running back position. I think they need to. And I get it, man. I get the arguments. I get the conversations of, man, you're going to upset that running back room, the culture, the chemistry. I get it. That's college football in 2024, right? But when you look at the fact that Cam Selden, I mean, when's he going to be back? October? And is he ever 100%? Like, all I think about when you tell me shoulder is I think about Jabari Small and how much he struggled with that shoulder injury. And then you look at people want to say Peyton Lewis. And I'm like, you're talking about a true freshman. And I'm excited about Peyton Lewis, man. Had he gone through spring, I think he could have been the 3rd guy behind Selden. But you're talking about a true freshman that didn't get to participate in spring camp. You think he's going to be up to speed in a month of fall camp. I don't know that you can do that. I think there's some talent in that running back room, but it's unproven. Deshaun Bishop never had a carry in college football. Khalifa Keith, what's he have? 10 carries, average like 2 yards a carry, limited time, just unproven. But there's some potential there. I think you got to add a body. I think you got it. You got to do it.
Now, I'm with you on it is a concern for sure. And we talked about this week. Like, you can't not, like me and Hubs always say, put them in bubble wrap, But like at camp, you got to go get hit, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to fumble. Jaylen Wright 2022, remember? While Jaylen Wright was so good, in my opinion, he went through spring, went through fall camp. He was ready to go. Like, Samson's going to have to take some contact in fall camp. But, man, you are a twisted ankle away, just something to be in real trouble. So I hear there's a concern there for sure. I'm with you. However, my counter to that would be, man, like, you're looking in the portal right now, and we'll see what Tennessee eventually does. They're evaluating some guys and everything, but you're looking in the portal right now for a guy to come in and probably be your third string back, right? The asking prices, because it's up in the open right now. I mean, there are legitimate. Josh Ward made this comment the other day on the show, and he's right. Like, because of the Tennessee court case, like there are public records. Like, here's his asking price. Here's his asking price. You can't go and sign a running back out of the portal for $500,000. You just can't. Number one, because the running back in your number one running back is probably not making that much money, and that would just be a poor investment, in my opinion. So. There's a lot of things you got to weigh here, but in terms of you need one, I'm with you. But I don't know if they're going to get one. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of a complex situation.
Yeah, that's why I get both sides of the argument, right? I mean, I understand what people's counter arguments. I just think you need one, but it's got to be the right fit. You got to find the right guy, the right fit. Like you said, talking about Damian Martinez and $400,000, $500,000. Like you said, what's Dylan Sampson getting paid? And then how does Dylan Sampson feel if he comes in? Bottom line is, if Dylan Sampson stays healthy and we feed him the rock, then it's going to be just fine. We're not going to have any problems. It's just that concern. It's a physical game. Injuries happen. So I just think you got to add somebody. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like to always say, football is a contact sport. So, is what it is. Let's stay on we'll get to the good stuff here in a moment. But while we're talking about some concerns, one of my concerns was obviously the secondary coming into spring practice. I think they're going to be different than in years past. I think the ceiling is much higher. But I wrote this in the Monday Night Chat, I think with the good, there's going to be some bad. I mean, that's just, you're breaking in a brand new secondary. But the explosives they gave up in the orange and white game, a little bit concerning for me, for sure. Overall thoughts on what you've heard and what you watched in the orange and white game from the new look Tennessee secondary?
Yeah, I mean, I like hearing athleticism, right? That's something that fans have been talking about for years. We don't have enough speed and athleticism on the back end. And, like you said, man, it's one of those things. You go into the orange and white game and you see Mike Matthews hauling a touchdown pass. You're celebrating, man. Big splash plays. Where has that been? It feels like 2022 all over again. And then on the flip side, you go, well, Jordan Matthews just got torched. Same thing, Chris Brazzell, 71-yard touchdown. Oh, wait a minute. Is he good, or is Jalen McMurray struggling over there at corner? I'm excited about the athleticism. I questioned the kid from MTSU, Jacoby Thomas. I was like, that's a big jump. MTSU to the University of Tennessee, that's a big jump. Jermod McCoy, I think, him and Ricky Gibson are going to be just fine. I worry about depth. Again, running back, I'm worried about depth. Secondary, I'm worried about depth. Offensive line, I'm worried about depth. Other than that, I think this is a pretty dang good football team. And I think you may be able to mask some of that secondary because Tim Banks, not me, Tim Banks' words, best defensive line in the country, is going to cover things up for you a little bit.
See, again, people that understand football can think like that. Again, what's your best friend to a secondary? It's a good defensive line, and there you go. I mean, if you're getting after the passer, forcing bad throws, forcing hurried throws, you're only going to give those guys in the back end more of an opportunity to go break up a pass, go pick a ball off, whatever the case is. So I'm with you, man. Defensive line, I think, is going to be really, really good. Offensive line, those young guys, I mean, Cooper didn't hardly do anything this spring. Of course, Javonte Spraggins is out. Lampley missed the last half of spring. John Campbell missed a couple of days. Lance Hurd's going to be good. But some of these young guys, Sham got a ton of left guard, and, Vyson Lang and William Satterwide, and so on and so forth. They got beat up for sure this spring. But I feel like it's only going to help them better, moving forward. And I truly do feel like because of this spring, if somebody goes down, man, you're going to be more ready than in years past to step in and kind of carry that torch because you went against grown men on that defensive front for 5 weeks. And you took your losses and you learned from it. What are your overall thoughts about the offensive line coming out of spring practice?
Just depth, man. Just depth. The same things you talked about. I think Hurd's going to be a dude. Sham at left guard. I didn't notice it. I watched through the orange and white game. Coach Jay over on the Talkin VAWLZ Network watched the game 7 times. That's how much of a life he has. So he watched specifically the offensive line. He had a lot of praise for Sham at that left guard position. I think this football team and Glenn Ellerby are getting close. They're close, right? You talked about the young freshmen. I like those guys that they got in the class of 24. Now you got a lot of big dudes in the class of 25 that, man, a couple of years back-to-back, add the right pieces like Lance Hurd in the transfer portal. I think this offensive line is close to being really good. But as for 2024, again, I think they got to stay healthy, but I think Josh Heupel's offense, I think he can kind of mask that a little bit and kind of help that offensive line out. Everybody's talking about it, media, the fans, everybody's talking about baptism by fire, right? Those young guys, like you just mentioned, going against the defensive line. And we had Jalen Matthews on the show Sunday talking about his trip to the orange and white game. That dude is a monster. And we asked him specifically what he thought about that defensive line, and he was like, man, those are the type of dudes that I want to practice against. And it's cliche, right? It's cliche. Iron sharpens iron. It does, man. When you're going against the best defensive line in the country every single day in practice, you're only going to get better. And so that excites me. We'll see. But depth is the theme here.
All right, guys, I've been told I am a competitive person. I'm sure you might think that I am as well because I get worked up about things that we talk about, but I'm sure you are as too. I have a competitive side. You do as well, but my competitive side is a huge fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded more than 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not only one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on all of my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also I can steal their riches from their vaults and keep it for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with your friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game today and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free in the App Store and Google Play. That's Monopoly Go, free in the App Store and Google Play. More with Boogie Bentley is coming up next as we continue on with the Thursday Locked On Vols. All right, man, I am super pumped, and I feel so much better about the wide receiver room than I did going into spring. I feel so much better about the tight ends than I did going into spring. I mean, Miles Kitselman turned out to be, at least this spring, he's proved that, hey, he's a guy that can help you. And I'll believe that they'll play 3 tight ends when I see it, but it's good to know that if one of those guys go down, I mean, you got a guy that you have some confidence in Miles Kitselman, but at receiver, Dante Thornton had probably, arguably, the best spring of anybody. Chris Brazzell came on and got better as time went on. Mike Matthews made play after play after play. Braylon Staley jumped on the scene. Brew didn't go. Squirrel White, he was limited a little bit. Nimrod and Webb are still there. Feels like, man, this collection of wide receivers, you got a pretty good group there, and you get a quarterback that can make right decisions. You can keep him upright at the offensive line. Explosiveness can return to this Tennessee offense.
Yeah, I really think. I think we're, 2022, my motto that whole year was telling people to buckle up, man. Some of these young guys that think Butch Jones was the best thing to come through Neyland Stadium, oh, man, you just cringe. You feel sorry for them. We're getting athletes back at the University of Tennessee, recruiting for the class of 25, man. So many athletes, and now seeing guys like Mike Matthews. The play he made in the orange and white game, like, what a catch. What a catch. Yep. The way he turned, manipulated his body to haul that thing in. And, I kept saying, what happens when Josh Heupel has elite athletes? And that's not a rip on anybody that came before, but we are getting legitimate 5-star talent. Not just, oh, well, he's a good athlete, he's got speed. Legit dudes, man. There is a difference. Guys that look the part. Edwin Spillman looks the part. But that wide receiver room, I know we're going to take you right back to the transfer portal, but how in the world? We're recording this on a Wednesday. I don't know when you're going to upload it. How do you keep that wide receiver room together and not lose a Nate Spillman, a Nathan Laycock, Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb, some of those guys that they're looking through the windshield and they're going, man, oh, man, there's some talent in front of me. And then they're looking over their shoulder saying, look what's coming behind me. Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley are some dudes. So I don't know how you keep that. Does that speak to the culture that Josh Heupel's created, that here we sit on Wednesday and Elijah Herring is the only guy that's hit the portal?
Yeah, and again, as we sit here on Wednesday, he has announced his intent to enter the portal. He still technically has not entered. I need to make that clear earlier in the show, because yesterday I just talked about how he made the announcement he's entering the portal. At the time of this recording, he's technically not even entered the portal. But yeah, I think so. I think a little bit. I mean, guys enjoy being here. Guys enjoy being coached up. I think, take Caleb Herring, for instance. You can never count anything out in today's college football. By the time I post this show, probably 5 guys are in the portal. But, Caleb Herring, I feel like, enjoys being coached by Rodney Garner. Enjoys that even though he's technically third string, he's going to get 15 snaps a game at minimum, right? And it will only grow from there. And, as far as the receivers, like if you're Nimrod or Webb, because I think those are the two that we're kind of thinking of, right? Like, I feel like they're confident in their abilities. They're in the best shape they've ever been, and they have a great understanding of the offense, and they look at like a guy like Dante Thornton and the step that he took this spring. It's like, man, can I make that jump my second to third year or first to second year in the system? And it kind of gives them hope, and not to mention, like, you hope that they're going to play more wide receivers this year so they can still get a little bit of run, no pun intended. But yeah, I'm with you, man. It's kind of wild to me that to this point, time of this recording, nobody else has entered. Of course, we'll see what happens there. Now, we talked about the running back a little bit. Kind of out the door, I want to ask you about this. Is there another position that you think Tennessee should maybe target in the transfer portal to upgrade the roster? Because I think that aside from the running back conversation, say you lose a safety, probably need to go get a safety. Say you lose a linebacker, go get a linebacker. But maybe it's just kind of sitting around saying, all right, well, we'll evaluate, but we're not in a hurry to go get anybody else.
I was thinking about this just last night, because I was like, man, transfer portal, so chaotic, right? It's like, oh, we're going to be making all these videos and talking about it, guys in, guys out. And Tennessee just kind of quietly sitting there. And it's like, we're in this spot where Heupel's created this culture that, like you said, guys want to play for Josh Heupel. Guys want to play for Rodney Garner. And that competition, man, they thrive on that competition, getting better, believing that you can take that next step if you're Chaz Nimrod. If I do what I need to do, man, I'm going to be that guy, and I want to do it here. I don't want to go somewhere else. I don't want to go to the ACC or the Big Ten or wherever. I want to do it at the University of Tennessee. And that competition, man, you're looking at the roster, and it's like, we got a pretty dang good roster for 2024. I coming out of spring, man, I'm starting to get more and more fired up. I'm like 9-10 wins. I'm like, is this a college football playoff team? Because I'm starting to be that dude that is believing. I'm starting to buy in. I'm like, it's college football playoff or bust. This is the year. This is it. We're going to look at Hendon Hooker's team, and we're going to say, man, that's the team that put Tennessee back on the map. That's the team that made football fun again, and you got Nico in the boat. And then we're going to look at 2024 and said that's when we closed the gap. And you went out and you made a college football run. You grabbed that top 5 class in the class of 25. You landed David Sanders. You landed some of these elite wide receivers, and now we're off to the races, man. I'm starting to be that guy that is believing, because this roster, you asked me about who would I add? It's got to be the right guy, because this roster is pretty solid. I think you need depth on the offensive line, but again, got to be the right guy. I think you got to add a running back, but if you don't, as long as Sampson stays healthy, I think you're fine. Secondary, I would like to add some guys, but we'll see. It's all about who goes in. Some people out there saying it's going to be complete chaos. I might be one of them, but it hasn't been yet. Kind of underwhelming, quietly waiting. But left guard, if I could create a player, I'm creating a running back first. I'm going to make him have a big, like, neck roll and, like, jacked and huge. And then I'm going to create a left guard, and then I'm going to create somebody in the secondary, maybe at the star position. That's a position, Jordan Thomas, Will Brooks. I mean, we going to roll a walk-on out there because we believe. Oh, no, that's what everybody wants to talk about. And I'm excited about Boo, too. Yeah. But if you look going into it, is it Jordan Thomas and Will Brooks and then a true freshman? And, man, I'm excited about Boo, but
I think going into it, if healthy, it's Jordan Thomas, and then Boo's right there. Will Brooks, I think, is going to be your first safety off the bench. And then potentially, say, as Boo continues to come along and he progresses and he should start, maybe you slide Jordan Thomas back to safety. I think there's some options there, but I'm with you, man. And also, you heard it here first, everybody. Boogie Bentley, 15-0, the Tennessee Volunteers.
9-10. 9-10. That's where I'm at, right in there.
I think the floor, for sure, is 9. If that's your floor, it's a pretty good ball club. And I think Tennessee right now is in the conversation for being a college football playoff contender because, hey, it expands to 12, man. I mean, there's opportunity there.
Yeah, you beat Oklahoma on September 21st. I think you wrap up the first half of the season 6-0 with a win over Florida. And Alabama coming to Neyland Stadium with Tennessee at 6-0. That's going to be fireworks. I'm ready for that one.
You better beat Florida this year. Just ridiculous.
I'm already like just chalking it up like it's a win. I'm like, well, they're coming back to Neyland. It's going to be a win.
We know you can't do that in this series.
I know, but I'm doing it. They should have beat them last year.
Should have beat them last year. Should have beat them 10 other times in the last 12 years. But all right, man. I good to talk to you again, man. What are y'all doing over there on the Talkin VAWLZ Network here lately?
I don't even know what day it is. I don't know what day of the week it is. We've had some good, man.
Today's Thursday.
Thursday. So last night we had Jamal Wallace, Tennessee defensive lineman, going to be moving to Knoxville in May, joining the team for summer workouts. He's going to come on the show, hang out, have a good time. Jaylen Matthews was the most, just a legit dude, man. Saw him walking into the stadium at the Orange and White game, grabbed me, gave me a big hug, introduced me to his dad. That dude, we had a fun interview with him. Talked about the best toppings on a cheeseburger. I mean, we hit the hard-hitting questions.
Big day, yeah.
If you missed that, you can go back and it's funny to me. We always try to drag him through the mud. Braylon Staley talked about his girlfriend. They talk about movies. Every single offensive lineman we've had on the show immediately wants to talk about food. So that's what we do on the Talkin VAWLZ Network. But we're doing Wednesday night live streams, Tuesday night NCAA streams, recruiting, transfer portal, all kinds of fun stuff for the fans, by the fans.
Great stuff as always there from my friend Boogie Bentley. Go check him and his crew out. They're live a couple times a week. He puts out videos as well. The Talkin VAWLZ Network with Boogie Bentley. Always appreciate him stopping by, and we do a bunch of stuff. A little cross branding there during football season, so you guys know who he is. But had a fun conversation with him on all things Tennessee football. All right, thank you as always for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every day. We'll come back. And we'll break down all the news items to end the week here regarding Tennessee basketball, Tennessee football, recruiting, and the transfer portal. All that and more you have to look forward to as we conclude your work week, but you can't do it without starting your Friday morning tomorrow with Locked On Vols. Until then, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.